The city holds out a promise in the stillness of the pre-dawn, a promise whispered in the steam rising from the manholes and dissolving into the amber glow of the streetlights. The promise of power, a power that doesn't scream, doesn't flaunt itself, a power that manifests in absence, in the empty space you leave behind. They call this somber detachment, the art of becoming unforgettable by vanishing, the tactic of becoming unshakable by refusing to feel. Propaganda is seductive, I admit. In a world that clamors for attention, silence becomes a weapon. In an era of relentless exposure, mystery transforms into a shield. The idea is simple. For nothing to affect you, you must be unconcerned with anything. To control the minds of others, you must first empty your own. They offer you 12 tricks of dark psychology, 10 principles for invulnerability, 7 cold behaviors to make them miss you. It's a handbook for forging an inner citadel. We're told to look to Seneca, who spoke of the soul's tranquility. You're shown Epictetus, who taught how to distinguish between what is within our power and what is not. They point to Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, as he wrote in his diary on how to maintain the impenetrable inner citadel. They appropriate ancient wisdom, twisting it into a blueprint for social power, a distorted version, adapted for these dark times. A philosophy of self-mastery for those who wish to triumph in a game one whose inception no one recalls. The appeal is undeniable. Who wouldn't want to be immune to offense, to betrayal, and to the pain of rejection? Who wouldn't feel tempted to walk away from a situation without a word leaving behind a trace of admiration and curiosity? The most addictive energy, they say, is that of detachment. The energy of one who needs nothing and no one, the self-sufficient man. The woman who is an island, a silhouette etched against the window of a 10th floor apartment, watching the city lights move below, indifferent to it all, a flesh and blood statue. The problem with statues is that they don't live, they merely exist. And the promise of dark detachment, this popularized and dangerous version of Stoicism, is not a path to strength. It's a manual for the self-mutilation of the soul. They confuse apathy with apatheia. The apatheia of the Stoics was not the absence of feelings. It was the clarity of mind that would not be enslaved by fear, unbridled rage, or blind desire. It was the ability to feel sadness without drowning in despair, to feel joy without getting lost in euphoria, to feel anger yet choose not to act upon it. The Stoic wasn't a man who didn't feel. He was a man who mastered his emotions. He didn't build a wall to shut feelings out. He forged an inner citadel to observe them without becoming their slave. But the bleak detachment they peddle today is different. It's a poison slowly imbibed, mistaken for an antidote. It doesn't teach you to master your emotions. It teaches you to sever them, the ties that bind you to the world. The first lesson is to detach from the outcome. It appears wise, but soon it becomes detachment from people. Then detachment from hope, compassion, vulnerability. Each cut is celebrated as a victory, one more step toward becoming unshakable. You learn to use silence, not as a space for contemplation, but as a punishment. You disappear not to rediscover yourself, but to manipulate the perception of those who remain. You become cold and distant not because you found inner peace, but because the warmth of human connection began to seem like a threat. You trade the possibility of pain for the certainty of emptiness. Schopenhauer, a man who understood suffering intimately, offered a perfect metaphor. The porcupines. On a cold day, they attempt to draw near to share warmth, but as they draw close, their quills prick them, and they retreat. The need for warmth draws them together once more, and the cycle repeats. The pain of being near, the pain of being far. The human condition is this dance. Dark detachment offers you a simple solution: pluck out your own thorns. And while you're at it, tear off your skin as well so you won't feel the cold anymore. What remains? A smooth, impenetrable being one incapable of inflicting harm, yet equally unable to feel the warmth of another. You become the man who leaves without a word, and they might even miss you for a while. But it's not you they miss. It's the mystery, the projection they cast onto your silence. You become a ghost in their memory, a blank canvas where they paint their own theories. Unforgettable perhaps, but never truly known, never truly loved. Nietzsche would have scorned such a figure. He who implored us to say yes to life, to embrace its totality. Your amor fati, the love of fate, isn't about becoming indifferent to what happens. It's about embracing what happens, whether good or bad, about wanting every moment, every pain, every joy, to repeat forever. Because all of it weaves the tapestry of your existence. The individual who strives for invulnerability, who shies away from suffering, is what Nietzsche would call the last man, a being that merely blinks, content with its paltry happiness, in its mediocre security, incapable of creation, of self-transcendence, or of feeling the ecstasy of life in its tragic and beautiful fullness. The practitioner of grim detachment believes he's becoming a Superman, but he's only becoming the last man. He exchanges life's emotional peaks and valleys for a flat, gray plain. He remains unbroken. It's true, but only because it's already dead inside. The soul is not a muscle that flourishes in idleness. It strengthens with use, with its scars, with its capacity to break and rebuild itself. True resilience is not the hardness of a diamond that does not bend. It is the flexibility of bamboo, which bends with the wind but does not break. The armor you forge to protect yourself from the world becomes your prison. You sit in your fortress safe, secure. Outside, life happens. People laugh, cry, fall in love, are disappointed, embrace, fight. They live, and you observe, from afar, through a crack in the wall, convinced of your superiority. You don't get hurt, but you also feel nothing. The silence you cultivated as power becomes a constant drone of loneliness. The detachment you cultivated as freedom reveals itself as the heaviest of chains. You've become so adept at needing no one that no one needs you anymore. You've become so efficient at controlling how others perceive you that you've lost sight of yourself. You look in the mirror and see a stranger, a calm, serene face, a face that betrays no emotion, a perfect face, the face of a mask, and you don't even remember the face beneath it anymore, or if such a thing even exists anymore. This quest for a phantom power, for a hollow invulnerability, mutilates the soul. It undermines the capacity for empathy, the courage to be vulnerable, the beauty of genuinely connecting with another human. It teaches you to view other people not as ends in themselves, but as pieces on a board, adversaries in a psychological game. And when you treat the world as a game, you might even win. But the prize is to be left alone on the board after all the other pieces have departed. True Stoicism, that of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, wasn't about escaping life. It was about how to live well within it. It was about finding strength not in the absence of feeling, but in the wisdom of choosing which feelings to cultivate. It was about understanding that the only thing we truly possess is our capacity to choose how to respond to what destiny casts upon us. And the choice to close oneself off from the world, to deaden one's capacity for feeling in order to avoid pain, isn't a choice of strength. It's the choice of fear. The night outside goes on. The city lights still flicker. The promise of power still echoes in the empty streets. But it's a false promise sold by shadows to those who fear the light. True strength does not lie in becoming unshakable. It lies in allowing oneself to be shaken and yet remaining standing. Not like a stone statue, but like a human being, with all the cracks and scars that prove he lived. One who seeks invulnerability has already sealed their fate. The next inquiry is for those who prefer wisdom to armor.